Our education students are one of the most frequent users of service learning. So I wanted her to explain what their students are looking for in a remote environment. And we want to help you all brainstorm ideas for remote service learning. We know that our summer semester is online for sure. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall semester. It may be online, but we want to make sure that we continue to support you in the great work that you do. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to do a brief presentation here.
It's a Cal State San Marcos webinar for service learning thing, and Jessica's on it for her organization. It's funny.
Oh.
We need to mute everyone.
Thank you.
So just a few things. We are going to record this. So once we're done, we'll have it available probably by Friday at the absolute latest. We're gonna send an email out to everybody attaching this recording, and then we're also gonna post it on our service learning webpage at Cal State San Marcos as a resource for you. It'll be on the right-hand side. I also wanted to do a quick introduction to Jasmine. Wave, Jasmine. Jasmine is going to help moderate some of the questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And at the end, we'll have time for questions, and Jasmine will help moderate that. Jasmine is our administrative coordinator for Cal State San Marcos in our Office of Internships and Service Learning. So thank you, Jasmine.
Okay, so here we are. We're going to talk about service learning in general and remote service learning in particular. Jill, you want to introduce our students?
Yeah, so this is an outlay of our statistics for our students. We have a very diverse population for our campus, and that is reflective of the community in which we serve. We are a Hispanic serving institute. We also have a large quantity of first-generation students. Those are students who are the first in their family to go to college and get a degree. Then we also have students who, as most students are, they need to work while they are going to school and pay for their school. And they also have family members that they need to be taking care of, whether that's parents or children. So our students are very, very busy. They're juggling lots of things at the same time. The other item I wanted to focus on here was that we also have a high number of military-related students, whether directly in the military or family of military.
And going back to that, our students being busy, this is one of the most frequent, I don't want to say complaints, but students really need to see the usefulness of the service learning in connection to their class. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So service learning combines community service and academics, giving students real-world learning experiences that enhance their academic learning. Where does it fall in relationship to internships? I get that question. So here's the experiential learning continuum. On the one hand is volunteerism, where the benefit and the focus is primarily the community partner. On the other end is internships, where the benefit and focus is primarily on the student who is learning their career skills. So service learning ideally falls right in the middle with equal benefit to the student and the community partner. That also means that the community partner, you all, are considered our co-educators. And the service is going to be integrated into the academic goals of the class through guided reflection activities that are done in class with the professor. And Jill's going to talk about high impact practices.
So high impact practices are a priority of our campus. Several high impact practices would be service learning, internships, study abroad, anything that takes that experiential learning and really applies what they're learning in class and makes that solidify. So high impact practices are really important, service learning being one of them. And they're really important for first generation and historically underserved students, based on the fact that, again, as we saw in the previous slide, most students have to work. So a lot of times they are not able to take a high impact practice voluntarily. It's incorporated now as part of their academics. And so it really allows them to go outside of their comfort zone and experience things that they wouldn't normally be able to experience.
So the academic outcomes of service learning are just incredible. I call it the magical pedagogy because it has been linked to increases in students are more engaged in the campus. They are better integrated into the campus community and the surrounding community. It increases their retention rates. The students who have taken service learning tend to have higher GPAs and higher graduation rates. And I've heard this many times from my own students, it's helping them identify potential career paths. So whereas they take an internship toward the end of their academic study, hopefully they've decided what they want to do. If they take a few service learning classes early on in their academic career, they're helping to identify what they want to do with their life. So this is just a small survey from my class, but I think it's good to hear from the students. They said they found so many connections between the class and the service learning, made them more interested in the class. Having interactions with populations in need helped me understand the material better. So when it works well, it really does help reinforce the academic material. And Jill will talk about the personal outcomes.
So the personal outcomes for our students, this is really where it makes a big difference that is a long-lasting difference. Students come in and work with your organizations and work with the community, and it allows them to experience opportunities where they can step up and be a leader, where they can work very collaboratively with various audiences that they wouldn't normally work with. It allows them to enhance their communication skills and critical thinking. It really is an amazing opportunity. And the thing that I love, Carol, if you could go to the next one. The thing that I love is hearing from the students about how they were afraid to do this. They weren't sure, they didn't know what to expect. They were outside of their comfort zone, and that they realized they shouldn't have been afraid, and that it was so rewarding for them personally. They learned a lot of skills, and especially leadership skills. That's where I see those students really flourish. So we love hearing the stories from both our community partners and our students about how this really helped them to personally grow.
And the social outcomes, obviously, we want to reduce stereotyped thinking, appreciate diversity, cultural competence, grow their empathy, and really set them on a path for lifelong volunteerism and community engagement. So in my class, 94% said my service learning improved my understanding of diversity. I realize it's important to have college girls come in because it motivates them to pursue their dreams of going to college, especially if they see girls that look like them. And that's true for all the students that we work with, or after school programs, the mentorship programs, the tutoring programs. And I love this quote. At the beginning of the semester, I felt pity for the families that I would work with. But as the semester progressed, my perspective changed. Empathy replaced pity as well as admiration. I've met some of the strongest, bravest, most hardworking individuals, and I feel privileged to step inside their world. So this is a good example of about how a student's perspective can completely transform in the course of one semester, and that's what we're hoping for in our service learning experiences. And then again, a lot of my students told me personally, yes, absolutely, I'm going to keep volunteering. I can't believe how fulfilling this was. I'm going to get my friends involved. So that's another side benefit to service learning. And then Jill's going to talk about how you all benefit.
So most of you on this call have already had our students at your organization, so you're very familiar with how our students and the program benefit you. But just to go through some of the main points. So you're a co-educator, with us, that you're educating these students about the current issues that impact your community. And like Carol said, you're creating these students that get excited about this, that understand the needs of their community, and they end up being lifelong volunteers and lifelong leaders in their community. Obviously, this is extra hands. Many of you have a small budget, and so you can use all the help you can, especially right now with the COVID-19. I know that a lot of your organizations are overwhelmed. So I know that the students are assisting with the shortcomings that you may have for staff. It also helps with developing relationships with the university and our other community partners. We have throughout the year multiple events where, for example, the Service Learning and Internship Fair, where all of the organizations come together. And that's one of my favorite things about that fair, is you see all of the nonprofits coming together, and you can see that synergy, and you can see the ideas of working together that they may not have met without being at that fair. Increasing the visibility of your organization. We love stories. Our Office of Communication wants to do as many stories as they can. So the more stories you tell us about your organization and our students, the more we're putting that out into our newsletters and our social media and really getting the word out. Obviously, our students come into the organization with a tremendous amount of energy and enthusiasm about new ideas, especially in technology. So if you ever needed any questions about Instagram or anything else, you know our students are the experts for that. They can also become positive role models for any youth that you may work with. As Carol mentioned, a lot of times the youth see them as a peer, and they get excited because they look like them and they're in college and they can ask questions. And sometimes they're a little bit more comfortable with the students than they would be with, maybe staff at the organization, because they are considering them peers. Also, creating connections with students for lifelong volunteering. What we find, which I love this as a sense of a side effect of this class, is that students do their 10 to 20 hours, 30 hours, and then they stay on at the organization for the entire time, just voluntarily, because they enjoy it so much, and they bond with a lot of the clients for these organizations. So they love staying on. And then obviously there's opportunities for you to work with our faculty directly. A lot of times our faculty have projects or grants, and they can work with you in creating new ideas.
And we have a faculty director in charge specifically of community-based research. So if you are interested in that, we can pass along that contact information. So Jill's going to talk about S4.
So you can put up that slide if you can see it. So the faculty usually have community partners that they are going to be working with. And sometimes faculty will have the students do a little bit of searching on their own. So the students will go into the database in which all of your opportunities are posted, and they will see the opportunities. So it's really, really important for you to update your opportunities with us, make sure that they're current, and make sure that the contact for your opportunities is correct. Because if there's incorrect information, you're not going to get students reaching out to you. So any information that has changed, if you have a staff change, if you have phone numbers, if you have a location change, anything like that, feel free to contact us. And also remember that the Service Learning webpage at Cal State San Marcos has a specific page just for community partners. And you'll find all sorts of resources there, along with the new opportunity form. So if for some reason you have a new opportunity, you're starting a new program, please feel free to open up that form and complete that. And then we can get that on the database. And then we also know when there are new opportunities to be able to share that with faculty. That's okay, Carol.
Is that okay?
You don't need to. So anyways, all this information is on our web page.
So we are on our end encouraging our faculty to form relationships with you all, and we want to encourage you to form partnerships with our faculty member. So as a professor approaches you about a service learning collaboration, it's important that you all know what the course objectives are, the types of projects the students might do, so that there's not a disconnect between the service and the academic objectives. and also your organization's goals and objectives. Make sure that's clear to the professor so that you are being equally served by the service learning project. And also let us know how many students you can support so we don't overwhelm you. What we're recommending is now in these remote days, do a Zoom introduction with the class in the first semester. If we have a service learning class that is contacting you, try to set that up at the beginning of the semester. That entices students to join your organization, give them an overview of what they might be doing remotely in this case. Just seeing a face. Normally we invite community partners into the classroom when we're face-to-face, but we can do it through Zoom. But just seeing a face makes students a little bit less intimidated about approaching you for service learning work, giving an overview of your organization and tell the students what they'll be doing. And Jill's going to talk about the role of site supervisors.
Yes. So site supervisors are really important. One of the biggest challenges that we have for students is they say, I wasn't quite sure who my site supervisor was. I wasn't quite sure who my contact was. And now I'm halfway through my service learning and I'm too afraid to ask and too embarrassed to ask. So then they end up feeling very lost. So when you put your new opportunity up, you're going to have a person assigned as a site supervisor. You can have multiple people assigned as site supervisors as well. So when a student does make their placement in our database, they will choose a site supervisor. When they submit that placement, then an email goes to the site supervisor and it has all the information in regards to the student's name, the class that they're in, their learning objectives, any kind of emergency contact information, which is really important. So this is a communication tool that we use to make sure that you know that that student that you spoke to, hopefully, has accepted and you have all the information that you need. Occasionally, you will get one and you will not know who the student is. If that occurs, please contact us directly. That just means that the student did not talk to you first. So please let us know. And then you may receive some end of the semester surveys or timesheet requests. So if you have any questions about any of this information, just feel free to contact us. So as a site supervisor, you're also a co-educator with us. So part of the experience for the student, things that will help is training that student. So explaining to them what their tasks are, why it's important, helping them see the big picture of how these tasks relate to your organization and to what the mission is of your organization. And then if possible, making some connections between the student and their curriculum. You've hopefully already found out what their course is and their learning objectives. So being able to make that connection, it really will help. And then also pointing out some of the additional skills that they're learning on the site, such as leadership opportunities, collaboration, anything, additional communication. It really helps cement why the student is there. And then also encouraging the student to ask questions and demonstrate any of their additional skills. One of the things that students want to make sure is that they can ask questions. So really, really enforcing the fact that the student can ask questions at any point in time is really very helpful for the student.
Yes, let me reiterate, the students are often terrified, some of them, and they're afraid to ask questions. So just don't be afraid to retrain them and make sure that they are comfortable with what they're doing, and they will really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is part of the onboarding, is orienting your student, letting them know about your organization, your history, your mission, your goals, talking about the population in which you serve, some of the strengths of the population and some of the challenges, so that they understand the community and your organization. And then some of the issues that your organization addresses, so that they understand where everything fits. Also, one of the things the students really like are stories, success stories about your organization, the community, because then they get excited about it and then they want to be part of that success. Very, very important is also, please be very clear and write down on paper if possible, because the students will listen and hear you, but then as soon as they leave, sometimes the information leaves with them and or stays there. And so if you can, make sure that you write down and hand the student any kind of policies that you have, and that's confidentiality policies. A lot of students will be working with youths, and there might be some policies around there in regards to an adult being with the student and the youth at all times. Let them know why these are really important and not just random rules, especially in regards to being remote now. There may be some dress codes. You may have some Zoom netiquette. So some Zoom policies that they have to be professionally dressed. It must be recorded. An adult must be, or a staff member must be on the Zoom, things like that. So just make sure that those are given to the student very clearly and written as well. Onboarding. So a lot of our community partners have some onboarding requirements, such as background checks. If the student is working with youth via Zoom, you probably still have these background checks. However, some of them, the requirements like a TB test or TB, any kind of TB requirements might be waived at this point. So I would recommend that you go in and look at the current requirements and see if it applies for the remote version of this. On the first day, especially, and I recommend all of this gets sent to the student in as much advance as possible. But the first day, just let them know where to come in and meet, who to meet, and basically kind of the rules and what their duties are. And then contact information. Again, I can't emphasize this enough, who the student is supposed to have as their lead. And also ask for a secondary lead, because if that person calls in sick, the student will come in and not know who to talk to. So if you can have a backup, a secondary one, that would be really great.
So remote service, we're trying to get creative here. Obviously anything that deals with writing, research, virtual mentoring, virtual tutoring, virtual support, building online communities. I'm a Girl Scout troop leader myself, so I've been having online troop meetings, virtual mentoring, creating lesson plans and curriculum, educational videos. This would be really great, I think, for some of our education classes. Creating an informational website, oral history, designing prototypes, creating public service campaigns for your organization, having students do research and then put out or give to you information that you could then pass along or put up on your website, creating marketing materials, assessing and evaluating issues in your neighborhood or with your community. And at the end, we're going to brainstorm, like we want to hear more of what you all are thinking of for remote service opportunities, so we can figure out how we can troubleshoot any challenges you might be having.
And to add to that slide, so the two challenges that our students have, one is they sometimes don't know who their main contact or their site supervisor is. The second challenge that I hear the most common is I didn't have enough to do. So when you're thinking about these duties and projects for the students, don't hold back. They get really excited when they have a project and there's something they're in charge of, and they don't want to be bored. So yes. I know that a lot of organizations are a little hesitant to give certain duties to students, but they really love to be in the middle of it and feel really important. So I would err on giving them more than less.
Right.
So evaluations at the end, how did it go? We recommend that you sit down and have a one-on-one with the student. Maybe it's in the form of a survey, but ask them how it went. They may have some really innovative feedback that you may not have thought about, especially something that makes it easier for future volunteers. maybe some sort of standard operating procedure, whatever that is. So just make sure that you touch base with them and let them know, and honestly give them feedback as well as they're going through the process, because they don't know what they don't know. Like Carol said, some of them, this is the first time they've done anything like this. So any kind of feedback to help guide them is helpful. And we are always here and available if you need a resource for anything. But when it's all over, please contact us. Let us know these success stories. And if there's anything else that we can assist that maybe didn't work so well as well. But we really love success stories. Our Office of Communication is always looking for those, and we love hearing them.
And in the hopes of building these relationships between community partners and professors, also keep in touch with the professors. And I work with some organizations on a regular basis, and we try to touch base before every semester. And I say, I'm going to send more students your way. Is that okay? So to make sure that we're benefiting each other to the best possible extent, I guess. Mm-hmm. So Jill has some tips for remote service.
Yes. So this, we're all experienced now for the last month on what works and what doesn't. So these should be pretty obvious for you guys in working remote, but please over communicate, because you don't have the usual cues if you're emailing a lot back and forth to the student of, you know, the facials and the tone of your voice and the inflections and everything. So I would over communicate. If you think you're communicating well, communicate more, over communicate, and try and do as many in-persons as possible, again, so that the student gets that one-on-one feel. And they don't have to be necessarily one-on-one, they can be group, whatever that is, but the more in-person, the better. And please make sure that the person who is in charge, the site supervisor for the service learning students and the volunteers, that they have time set aside, that they're allowed to set aside time for, I lost the page. Okay.
Site supervisor is given time to dedicate to this.
Sorry, I lost the page, but I have another one already up here, so maybe I can do this. Hold on one moment. I can do that. Sorry, one moment.
I'll just address this thing on the bottom here. If the students don't have resources like computers or internet, the university has been furiously trying to provide them with that. So that's a barrier that we can overcome. Just let us know.
Yeah, sorry, I've got one of the other slides up now. So also, if you can involve them with any virtual meetings, staff meetings, anything like that, so they can really see how everybody interacts and how the organization works and the inner workings of it. And then also, one of the best things is to connect them with other volunteers, so other service learning students, and then they have that peer-to-peer interaction. And if possible, even connecting them with a former service learning student, so they can talk to them personally about what their experience was like.
Okay, so now, Susie, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great. So I want to introduce Susie Van Steenbergen, who is one of our fabulous professors in the School of Education. These are just two of the classes that she's teaching. She's teaching these this summer. And as I mentioned, the School of Education is one of our heavy hitters in the realm of service learning. So I wanted Susie to describe what she normally does for service learning and how you all might be thinking of adapting to a remote environment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thank you to all of the service learning partners out there. We very much appreciate the relationships that we've been able to build with you over time. And our students absolutely are enriched by the service learning program. I could not say enough positive things about it. The two classes that I'm talking about today, the first is Education 380, which is Applications in Adolescence and Youth Development. And the class is a very high-level overview of basic principles of development for kids. And in service learning, our students have to work with kids in really any kind of environment. Often they'll work in schools or at Boys and Girls Club, or they'll do Girl Scouts is a really popular one. And in the class, they bring in their stories and make connections to the principles and theories and the things that we're discussing. And in the other classes, Education 364, that one's a little bit different in that it is a mandatory prerequisite in order to become a teacher. It's the role of cultural diversity in schooling. So everybody who wants to be a teacher, kind of in California, has to have a class like this. And for that class, we want students specifically to work with diverse populations, underserved, under-resourced student populations. And similar with 380, they go out into the field and they bring back their stories and make connections between what we're talking about regarding the history of education and equity issues and things like that. And it helps helps make the theoretical discussion in class much more real. So that quote earlier that Carol, I think it was whoever was talking, talked about how students might walk into a situation feeling pity or something along those lines. They walk out really understanding what it's like to experience our schools from the perspective of kids for whom schools were not designed. And it's really good. It's really helpful. Helps them become much better teachers. For online learning, we really aren't quite sure exactly what that's going to look like. For the 364 class, it's mandatory that students have 15 hours of service, but the state of California has suspended that for the fall year, meaning that if kids are taking their prerequisites now, they don't have to have those hours. And so if we could set up something through service learning that would allow them to get those hours virtually, that would be amazing, because that's where we really learn about our future teachers, is what they say when they come back from the field, how they make sense of their experiences with kids. It's extremely important. So if we can get that going, that would be great. The thing that our teachers have been doing, the ones that are in student teaching, they have been similar to the list on the slide earlier. They've been designing lesson plans and they've been doing one-on-one or small group tutoring. They've been, reading to kids. That could be something that would be really awesome. Very simple, straightforward. And let me tell you, parents would be super appreciative of anything that the service learning partners can provide that is accessible. And that's the really tough thing. And that's one of the things we're noticing in the schools, is that this remote learning is exacerbating already existing inequities. And so I have one teacher candidate who's every one of her 24 fourth graders are showing up to every lesson. That is not the usual. Usually it's maybe a few kids. And so if there's a way to figure out how to make sort of remote support more accessible to kids, or to tap into kids who may not be getting any support, that would be amazing. And the good news is that most of our students are quite tech savvy, and so they would be willing and able to try to help kids and families figure out the technology side of things. But as an instructor's from my point of view, it'd just be really helpful to get our students interacting with kids in really any kind of way, supportive mentorship, tutoring, reading development. I mean, I can think of a number of different applications, but so that's kind of what we're thinking. We're open to creative solutions, and we would love to work with folks who have some ideas. I'm teaching 2 classes this summer. They're about 5 weeks long. Everybody's going to be remote, meaning the students are. So, it's easy in that sense to collaborate. We don't have to go anywhere, which is great. So if anybody's interested in sort of coming up with something, I'd be happy to work with you. Does that answer all the questions, Carol? Is there anything you wanted me to talk about?
Well, now we're going to open it up to questions or ideas or brainstorming or problem solving. But first, Jill, do you have the link for the survey that you want to put in the chat?
Yes, I believe Jasmine has put that into the chat. So If anybody has to leave right now, please click on that link and take a very, very quick little Qualtrics survey just to help us with feedback. And then we're going to take questions, and then we'll leave that link up there for a few minutes after our questions so that you can still click on that link.
I'm not sure you can click, but you can certainly copy and paste it into a browser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's hear, we'd love to hear from you all. Questions, problems.
Yeah, I just
ideas.
tested it. The link is active.
Oh, it is. Okay, good.
Any questions? I don't see any in the chat. Am I missing anything, Jasmine?
Mhm.
No questions, really?
How about ideas for remote service, things that your organization is doing to adapt to the online world now?
Okay, how many students are you expecting looking for service learning opportunities this summer?
Oh, Susie.
The 2 classes I'm teaching will be about 30 each. My guess or my hunch is that if we did do any kind of remote service learning, we would make it optional. So it wouldn't be a mad dash to place all 60 of those people, especially as the partners start to get up and running and we start to figure out, what's working. So, but then I think there's 2 other prerequisite courses that are running in the summer. So at least 100 or a couple hundred students are out there that could be of help. The question is, do the students have access to the technology required to make those connections? And so that would be something that I'd be wondering about. Elizabeth asked about the timeline for placements. It depends on when the course is offered in the summertime. The 2 classes I'm teaching happen to be basically the month of June, but we have 3 summer sessions, 2 that run back to back and one that's kind of in the middle. And so, it might be helpful to look at this summer, the extended learning website. They have a calendar. And for the number of hours, it varies widely. In one of my classes, it's 20, in the other, it's 15. So it kind of depends on the course.
One more question on there.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any suggestions about how to increase participation online?
So this is a really great question. I was just meeting yesterday with a student teacher who's working in the field with her English language learners in Escondido. And what she has found is that keeping the activities, they're studying the Holocaust and World War II. She's a history teacher. She's keeping them, they all have to be voluntary. That's what the district has decided. But she's used discussion posts. She's used lots of video. She's used some interactive tools. There's a program that allows kids to watch a YouTube video and then it stops and they have to enter questions. The kids have been logging on. Some of her newcomers are logging on and they're participating. And she's trying to make it as high interest as possible. And she's building in a lot of choice. So she gave them a choice of they could attend, for example, a virtual tour of Auschwitz-Birkenau, or they could attend a virtual tour of another museum. So she gave them a bunch of choices. And that seems to be helping as well. She's also reaching out to them using an app called Remind. She's doing little teasers about like, log on today and you'll see blah, blah, blah. It's really, she's sort of selling it to them and making it interesting for them. And so sort of stripping out sort of the humdrum parts of school, I think, and really trying to keep the engagement and the learning, and it's working. It's really, really cool. So I think working with some of our current educators, we're learning a lot about what works with kids in the school system. And then my elementary teachers, they've done some read alouds. They've done some math, which is really cool. and they'll have kids like draw and work out a problem and then hold it up to the screen and things like that. But what seems to be most helpful is making it interesting for kids and making it easy for them to get to it. Those two things seem to really help participation.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Van Steinberg.
Mm-hmm.
Jill and Carol, the next few questions are for you. What is the main difference in requirements for internships and service learning? And then what is the due date for community partners to submit interest?
I'll take the due date whenever you get it to me. The sooner, the better. There's no due date per se, but the sooner we get it to me and reviewed, the sooner it'll go up on the the service learning database, and the sooner that we can share those opportunities with the faculty.
And the question about the difference between internships and service learning ideally is equally beneficial to the partner and the student. The hours vary from 10 to maybe 50 max per semester. I'd say the average is about 20 per class. We send hundreds of service learning students out every semester. Internships are a lot more focused, where a student is working 90 to 120 hours during the semester, and the focus is really on the student learning, growing their career skills.
Perfect.
Beautifully put.
We have a good suggestion about how to get students involved. Mr. James Wallace says, one way to get students involved is to put up materials that relate to a diverse population of students. So to really make it about them, where they are from, or how it affects them in their life. So great suggestion.
Other questions? Okay. Well, if we don't have any other questions, again, the link is in the chat. So if you could click on that link, it's an active link, and take a quick Qualtrics survey. And we're going to leave this up for a few minutes so that everybody can click on that. And then, oh, sorry, there's one more. Will you be looking to place student teachers in the fall? Yes, lots of them. Thank you, Susan.
Yes, as far as teacher candidates are going, we haven't slowed down. The applications we had more this year than we did last year. We're gonna have over 200 teacher candidates in all of our programs at least. So we'll definitely need field placements.
I love it. Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for attending this. And we are always available if you have any other further questions. We have information on our website. We'll be posting this video, so feel free to share it with any other community partners that you feel might want to partner with us. And again, keep those remote opportunities coming. We have plenty of students for you. We just need those opportunities. And if you want to chat with us and get creative, we're more than happy to do that. So
Yes.
I just wanted to thank everybody. Anything else?
Our next step is going to be, once we collect your opportunities, we're going to send that information out to professors to hopefully create some matches. So please send us your opportunities as soon as you can.
There's a great question from James. Is there a way to provide a video for professors?
Service learning, we are going to post a video on remote service learning on our website in the coming weeks. And there are also some webinars that are going on about how to adapt your online class for remote service learning. So yeah, we are working to educate our faculty as well.
I think the question might be, if organizations want to create the video, is there a way to blast it out to faculty and courses?
I don't see why not. Feel free to send the video to us, and we can let our faculty know. Yeah, send that out with all the other information.
I'm wondering if there'd be a way to embed that into the database somehow, that add a marker that says remote and then a little video link or something along those lines.
So we currently have a tag that we just added that says remote. So that way students can search all of the remote opportunities. I don't know about adding a video. We probably can as a log entry. Jasmine and I will work on that. So that's a great question. And I think also it might be good to add it just to our our faculty page or our student page, learning more about our different organizations that we're in collaboration with. So posting that on our website. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then we want to thank you all for participating. Lovely to see your smiling faces. And we will be in touch with you soon.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Christine.
Susie. Thank you,
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Thank you,
Jill.
Carol.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.